Buongiorno and welcome to my Way of Thinking podcast, or my What for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Hope you're all doing well. We're starting to get nearer the end of the pandemic, which is good news. We've just going through Easter now, and then we can meet people outside, and it's heading towards the 12th where we can go to the pub. Woo! So exciting times. Make sure you all get your vaccine and still stick to the rules. Don't be naughty. Now today I'm speaking to Joe Plumb. Joe's just an absolute pleasure to speak to. He's such an interesting young man. He's got he seems so much more mature than his actual years, and he's been through a hell of a lot. He's come out the other side. He's come out the other side positive, and he is so motivated in helping others. He's just an absolute inspiration. But anyway, I'm not going to tell you anymore because I want you to listen. It's definitely worth it. Now, I'm always thinking all about us human beings that all have a story to tell. Those stories can vary massively, but with the guests I'll be interviewing, you'll always be able to take a little bit of advice or insight into how extraordinary we can all be. Remember, 4 rules: no bullshitting, no judging, no negativity, and have fun. And remember to listen back to previous episodes. We've got the Mental Health Week. Recently, I spoke to Paul Taylor Mills about the theatre scene in London, Oliver Price about his acting and Vikings, and loads of brilliant stuff. And we've got brilliant episodes coming up, so make sure you keep listening. Remember the podcast stream on all the usual platforms and YouTube. Just put My Way of Thinking podcast, and remember, like and subscribe. Okay, let's get on with it. Here's my interview with the brilliant Joe. So welcome to My Way of Thinking this morning. I have a very special guest. It is the one and only Mr. Joe Plumb. Woo! Welcome, Joe.
Woo-hoo. Thank you very much.
On this beautiful Saturday morning. I shouldn't talk about dates really because I don't know when the actual episode will go out.
I do that all the time, don't worry.
Yeah, it's live, honest. Anton Deck. But yeah, great to finally meet on Zoom. It's funny how everyone's, even though we're in a lockdown, everyone is still quite busy. There's a lot of people still busy, isn't there?
Well, you've got no excuse to not be able to do anything now. You have to do these Zoom calls. It's not like you're out and about or have to travel, is it? But yeah, it's weird doing all these virtual things. I'm looking forward to getting back face to face and being able to give people a proper handshake again.
Yeah, I was saying that I was on. Have you heard of Clubhouse? This new thing that's called Clubhouse. It's another
the new app or something.
Yeah, so I've been popping on there here and there, just more social media hassle, and it's quite good because you just have a chat about things you're interested in. And I was saying, yeah, I've really enjoyed connecting with people from like yourself and people around the world in Australia, but I do miss just shaking someone's hand and having that interaction. There's something about it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a weird time, but no one really knows what's going to happen, Yeah. June 21st, fingers crossed, but...
Yeah, I'm positive. And just to be able to hug someone, you don't go around just hugging random strangers. But I just love hugging people that are huggers and hugging them. It's it's good. It's a good way to
comfort. It's a safety, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, right. So before I start talking about your journey, Joe, I always like to talk about a couple of funny stories just to lighten the mood because the news is pretty dire.
Yeah,
as you're aware. So don't worry, we're not going to talk about Meghan and Harry or any of that shite because I'm sick to the back teeth of it.
This week's just been exhausting just for that alone, isn't it?
Oh, mate, I tell you, everybody's got an opinion. It's great to have an opinion, but it's like I was saying, have an opinion and respect the other person's opinion. I think the problem these days is no one not no one. There's certain people that hate other people's opinions, and doesn't work for me.
Free speech is great, but it's how we use our free speech. And I had to write a piece for the press this week about it. It made me comment, the mental health effects. I've been on the phone to the police around the country 5 times this week just because of that people not feeling like they can't talk about their suicidal thoughts, getting help because of the judgment. But yes, have your opinion, your free speech, but use it in a way that isn't detrimental to anyone, won't insult.
Yeah, you've got to. You've got to be responsible for what you say, and it's in the context you say it. But God, it is. We'll touch on all that anyway, talking and everything later on. So let's do a couple of stories I looked at this morning, which did make me laugh. Right, now, if you've been feeling bad about your dodgy barnet, as hairdressers remain closed, you might sympathise for one poor pooch that was left looking 5 years older after being groomed at home. It's fair to say that many of us sporting dodgy cuts at the moment, either because we haven't been to hairdressers or braved. Our beloved animals aren't exempt from this. And one woman left people in stitches after admitting that she'd attempted to groom her dog at home and it hadn't gotten what she hoped for. It went viral on TikTok, surprise, surprise. This little terrier, there's two pictures. I'll put them on the YouTube when we upload it on the YouTube. Obviously, podcast, you'll just have to guess. But it's pretty horrendous, to be fair. He looks like a nice little terrier in the first photo. Then she hacks him to death.
I think I saw this on Loose Women, like just one of those, the programs, and you just got something on the background, and I was in stitches.
Yeah, and it is funny how many people have probably done this. I know there was haircuts. Oh, because I've got no hair, I just use a shaver thing, and the amount of times I've seen friends that said, "I'll do it for you if you want. I can bring the shaver around, drop it off." But it's quite funny, and also, this story was on the Mirror, and if you scroll down, they've got like 4 other pictures of grooming dogs that have gone wrong, and it just made me smile. I thought, dangerous times.
Oh man,
dangerous times. I mean, luckily I've got boxers, so they're short-haired. But if they were long, I think I'd have had a crack. It's creative as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something to learn, I guess. Maybe that's a lockdown trick that people have learned, hairdressing.
Yeah, and she's gone viral on TikTok, so good for her, but that did make me smile.
TikTok's been great over lockdown.
Yeah, even I've started putting TikTok, you scroll through, it's easy to scroll through, but when the dogs have just been doing silly things, I just uploaded it. It is funny. Animals are the funniest thing, and they sit on there.
Oh, they're great. Cat videos.
Oh, God, yeah.
Brilliant.
Crazy. I like it when you've got a dog against a cat, and the cat always wins. And the dog's like, what have I done wrong?
It's always the big dogs as well that are better than the smallest cats.
They do make me laugh. And then the final one, and this one made me smile. A post on Reddit shows a note left behind by a Sainsbury's shopper who was stunned by the price of a can of paprika Pringles. And people hailed it as proper British response. Now, Sainsbury's is expensive, let's be honest. Yeah, they have some nice stuff in there. People love a bargain. I love a bargain. I hate being ripped off. So if you see something, we do shop at Aldi quite a lot because you just know something that's exactly the same and £2 cheaper. You just hate being ripped off, don't you? And
they scan things so fast that they might miss an item. I know that sounds really bad, but I've had a couple of times, like in the last couple of months, where I've bought a 4-pack of Guinness.
Yes.
And they've missed them off. And it's like, that's the most expensive thing there. Like, and
beautiful. Beautiful.
I normally would go back and say,
Oh yeah, of course you would. Yeah, I'd go back. I'd feel so guilty. I wouldn't just walk out the shop.
I like thinking it's good karma.
Yeah, too right. But anyway, so this woman, she took a stand to protest for the price rather than flagging down a member of staff or writing a strongly worded letter. She found a cardboard box, ripped off part of the cardboard box, and stuck it in where the price is. And she basically wrote, £3, you're having a bleeding laugh, ain't you? Next to the price.
So typically British.
I know. I love it. I do. But yeah, it does. I think because of lockdown, it's affected us all strangely, but shopping is like a day out now, isn't it? You go shop and it's like, wow.
And you can socialise with people. You see your friends in the shops. Like, that's been the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just go get your grocery shopping and make sure you time it in with all of your friends. I mean, I've moved, so I don't know many people around this area, but I've seen so many people just stopping, having a natter in the middle of the aisles, which is annoying when it's all one way at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's funny, the supermarkets, because it got to a point where they were being really protective of customers and strict and only so many people in. Now it's like the floodgates are open. But yeah, you're a lot more diligent. I've been a lot more diligent when I'm shopping. I'm turning into one of these sad shopping guys with all his carrier bags under his arm.
Go in with loads.
Years ago,
I've got a whole cupboard full of carrier bags now. I'm pretty sure bags for life are living here.
Before this, I'd just walk in a shop. I wouldn't give a shit. I'd just pick up any old crap, use their bags. Now I've turned into this shopping monster. Anyway, the joys. Right. So, Joe, we got in contact together through Victoria English, who was a guest in Mental Health Week. Love Victoria. And
she's great, isn't she?
Yeah, people should go back on that episode. And those were offering advice to people. We didn't really talk about Victoria's story, which was a shame. So I'm going to try and get her back on. That went past and we didn't manage to get together till now. So really, I just wanted to talk to you because you've got a fascinating and interesting story. So tell us a little bit about, now I know this all started, you are a public figure now, you've done a hell of a lot, but this all came from, by the sounds of it, is when you were bullied when you were younger. So could you tell us a little bit about that, Joe?
Yeah, so school was difficult. I was diagnosed with autism. I was 7 going on 8. And yeah, I'm very low on the autistic spectrum. Autism, such a broad spectrum. I mean, if you've seen the Sia film that came out and all the angst with that just shows one big, one of the very severe ends of the spectrum. But I'm quite low. But at a young age, you know, the social anxiety and the certain difficulties and problems that come along with it are very prominent, especially to other peers in school.
Yeah.
I was isolated. I had no friends throughout my whole school life. It was very difficult. There was physical bullying, verbal, and I had no one to turn to. And you try and talk to a teacher. Yeah. Teachers didn't understand it. There wasn't that awareness. And there was a lot more going on. Then I was diagnosed. I was diabetic, and well, I'm still diabetic, but I was diagnosed with diabetes May 28th, 2007. So,
all right. Okay.
I think I was like 9 going on 10 maybe.
So a lot going on at that age then for a young kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And the insulin they had me on, I'm allergic to that type of insulin. It took them a long time. So my sugars were always low. But the bullying really, really impacted me. And I tried taking my life a lot of times. I was overdosing on my insulin, you know, using whatever I could to try and end it. When I was 13, I started off a campaign that went global with the likes of Sunita, James Arthur, after he was on the X Factor, Richard Branson. It just went mad. Yeah. So I went from this nobody and someone that people didn't want to talk to, and then all of a sudden I was in this massive public domain. I was in the national press. I was on the radio and met Tiny Temper, BBC events. It was great, but it was damaging as well, because then I used social media. I got addicted. It was,
oh God, yeah.
It was one to be known. I didn't know how to cope with it, and but that did a lot of good work. Worked with a lot of national charities.
I suppose you went from one end of the spectrum, you know, no friends, feeling isolated, then to the total opposite. And I suppose that really it affected you, like you say, the opposite direction. Initially, I bet you thought, "Wow, this is great." But then, when you sit down and think, "Wow, it's quite overwhelming."
When everything went public, it was you know, my life was out there, and I'm diagnosed with mixed personality disorder, something called cyclothymia, which I still to this day don't actually understand what that is.
Sounds good.
It's a great word.
Can't spell it.
No, it's fun to say. And, I have a few medical issues, a few more as well. And, that really kind of felt like I had a massive weight on top of me. I spent loads of time in hospital, but sorry. Sorry, I need to stop smoking.
You naughty boy. Get vaping.
Oh, don't. But no, I volunteered in a youth cafe as well. That was really where my journey started, and that was how I put myself in a situation where I had to overcome the social anxiety. But a lot of the people that bullied me also went to this youth cafe. But in a way, I was almost in a position of trust and responsibility. And if they were doing stuff, then it had to be dealt with by the senior member of staff that ran it. Did some stuff with the Home Office, created a resource tool for people on the autistic spectrum who felt like they couldn't communicate what was going on. So it was a visual tool, so they could actually write it, and it put parents and teachers on the same page. Did stuff with the National Council of Voluntary Youth Services. I was awarded the Princess Diana Award.
Wow.
For my work in the community and for the work to try and stamp out hate crime, and then various county-wide and nationwide awards after that.
So just going back then, Joe, to when you were younger and you were trying to end your life and you were at a low point, what do you think was that turning point? Was it therapy? Was it family? What do you think made that, or did something happen?
I think the turning point was I watched a film with Martin Luther King. Oh, wow. And I always loved those films, and it was looking at that negative into a positive. And I think the one great thing about the autism is you can you see things in such a different light. And it spurred me on. When you have these ideas, you just want to push and push and push. You know your goals. I found social media and I knew how to use it, and I really got used to the algorithms, how to build up a following. And I wanted, if I can say any inspiration, he's my inspiration.
Wow.
And I wanted to do good. I ended up in a psychiatric unit, a fair few. It was in Sheffield. And that wasn't very nice. They didn't give me my insulin. They were just giving me sugary drinks, and they left me in DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, which I was in many times, but this was very severe.
Yeah.
They refused to call an ambulance and all sorts of, it was horrible. So I was sitting in bed. I couldn't move.
Have they been pulled up on that, Joe, since?
They've been shut down.
Good.
It was my mum and dad worked tirelessly to get me out of there. And I just remember they refused to call the ambulance. And then once people were aware, they got me a taxi to the children's hospital. But at the time, I wasn't classed as a child, and they wouldn't take me. And I just collapsed on the floor.
Oh, my God.
And I was blue lighted. And then I was in there for 3-4 weeks, and it was a really bad DKA. I could have quite easily died. I was very close. And I was let out, and then they did it again.
Oh, it
ended up in the consultant of the hospital up in Sheffield. They're great, Northern General.
Right, okay.
He actually put me on a section and told them to get out, and worked tirelessly with my parents and with the hospital in Northampton to move me closer to home and to get me out of there, because it was dangerous.
Yeah. It's so important. It's so important, those people you meet. You're putting your trust in them, especially at a young age, and you need that support. And just because it's a hospital or wherever you go, a sanctuary or whatever it is, those people are so important that they're caring and look after your health and are not just there. And I would like to think this day and age, we've seen it in care homes, and unfortunately every now and again there's an isolated incident, but I'd like to think it's a lot better than it's ever been at the minute,
the services are underfunded, and you look at there's not a very good hiring process with these. It's just the cheapest wage, and that's what deters people from going into it. Just like you see with all the nursing stuff going on at the moment, the pay's awful.
Yeah.
But I was transferred to a unit in Northampton, and I'd like to, you know, my conditions, even before that, because of my mixed personality, I'd switch, and there were things that had happened but didn't happen in a certain way. But I was living in a different personality. I was hallucinating, all the overdoses, trying to take my own life. There were, and then in the public eye, there were family arguments, and it was horrible for my family, and I was horrible to my family.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of some of these conditions.
Yeah.
I've only just got to a point really where I feel I can talk about that. And I had my notes sent because I moved house, and I didn't realise half of the stuff that's gone on. And I only got a couple of years worth of hospital notes, and looking at them, I was shocked. I'm not a violent person, but I had violent outbursts. It turned out I accidentally hit a nurse in one of the units.
Yeah.
The things with my parents, and you know, that's something that it really put me on a downer for a good few weeks. But it's good to look at that stuff because it teaches you more about you, more about your journey, and actually how far I've come. But it was horrible for my family, and I put them through a lot. But they really rallied around me, and we're in a very good place now. You know, it's taken us a lot of time.
Yeah. And what you've got to remember as well, Joe, is it's not your fault. This is conditions that you've been born with and grew with. So it's your journey. It's your journey. It's not your fault. You haven't done anything deliberately. I think the key is that, like you just said, you look back. Some people don't like to look back, but I think it clears the system to realise what happened in the past and sort of process it. Because if you don't, it's always there in the back of your mind. And I think, well, you know more than me about this because you're into mental health, but I think when you're older, if you haven't cleared things out or gone through it, it can be quite dangerous as you get older. And as difficult as it must be, you must, you know, get those things done and put to bed, I think.
Yeah, because these things were mentioned to me, and it was obviously, I didn't believe it when people would tell me.
Yeah.
And there was almost a reluctancy to find out. But after finding out and now knowing that happened, it wasn't just things that were being said, because that's what I thought. I can't remember it, so it mustn't have happened. But it was a big weight lifted off my shoulders. But the unit in Northampton was fantastic. You know, there were a few issues with I deteriorated a lot, and there was a lot of learnt behaviour where, you know, you're surrounded by, it's a safe space when you've got a mental health condition, a mental illness at a young age, when you're around everyone else similar age in an adolescent unit, you feel safe because you can just be yourself and everyone's in a similar situation. But I had a meeting because it was too dangerous for me to really be at home because of my mental health. It was detrimental. I was placed into the care system. The first home I went in wasn't great. And there was a lot of stuff that happened in there. And I ran away. I was a missing person at the time. So I tried taking my own life on the M1 motorway. It was midnight, and I jumped in front of a car which happened to be an unmarked police car, believe it or not. Which,
wow, that's luck.
Yeah, you look back on it now, it could have been any car, and I was 136, so put on a section, and they didn't do anything. When I went for the mental health assessment, it was told, you know, well, you haven't taken your own life, and they sent me back. So I did something else, and it was a cry for help as well. You know, I wanted to die, but I didn't want to die, but I just wanted someone to listen, but no one was listening, and I felt so alone. And all of these, there was many things that happened after that. I was in and out of units, but all of these things kind of built up from a young age and spurred me on to do something different. I've seen the care system for children in care and care leavers needed something to bridge the gap. There's not enough support. There's not enough funding. The mental health system needs to change. There needs to be training, awareness, and with the bullying. So, you know, I did a lot of work, a lot of social media campaigning, getting people to talk about it, especially men, because there's still that stigma attached to it. Man, you can't talk about this. Man up. The phrase I hate.
You can swear, don't worry. You fucking hate that phrase.
It fucks me off so much. So it was important for me as a man to go, fuck it, I'll talk about it. And it's okay. Being a man, there's no right or wrong ways. You know, that's how you're born.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no right or wrong way to behave, and we have emotions too. And working with the different organisations, I've done a lot of work. I'm an ambassador for Kidscape as well, and I've done work with Ditch a Label and an ambassador for them as well now, which was announced and finalised this week.
So it sounds
TV and
so it sounds like you've been through this hell of a journey, horrendous, and your therapy now is helping as many people that could possibly end up in that journey or a cry for help as possible. And that's almost your therapy, that you're doing this day in, day out, because you don't want anyone to go through what you went through. You know what I mean?
No.
And I suppose that is the key. And kids as well. It's no child should have to go through that. No, you know, that is when they're at the most vulnerable. So I think what you do, how you've come through it is an absolute, you know, a miracle.
There's a lot within my story, and I've had to put myself in situations because talking publicly was never something I could do because of the autism made it so difficult. So when I was put on a stage in front of 1,000 people,
just clammed up.
But I had to do it to get rid of that anxiety of doing it. I had to push myself. I worked in a club as well, another uncomfortable environment. I didn't actually realise I applied for the job, and then I went and I was like, oh, stuff it. But
that's something everyone can take on board, and this is something I've talked about for years and years, is if you're uncomfortable, that's a good thing because you're pushing yourself. You must push yourself. And these people that are just sitting at home and doing nothing through lockdown, it's the worst thing. Push yourself. I've done it for myself. I've had to, where I've had to go down to London, especially with the film stuff and stuff like that, and go down on my own. And it's so difficult. But when you do it, you feel elated. You think, wow, you feel so proud of yourself. So there's definitely something to be said, isn't there, Joe, for that?
Absolutely. And, you know, if I didn't push myself, I'm safeguarding trained. I've got a lot of different training qualifications. I didn't carry on in college. I didn't go because I don't feel I need that. And this is what you don't have to do these things if you can't do it. And if the education system doesn't work for you, there are other things you can do. But peer mentoring, and it's really important that actually we have people that can relate to experiences, helping other people. You sit in front of a psychologist going, oh, how did that make you feel? Oh, I understand. But they don't understand.
Yeah.
So to have someone on the other side and to relate to things that they're going through and the feelings that go through people's heads is so a lot more beneficial than it is sitting in front of someone that they might have the training, but they don't actually have that understanding unless you've been in that journey. And it's linking that effect of bullying and with mental health, because there's still that thought process attached that, you know, you're bullied in school, but after that things are fine. It stays with you forever. Like I will I've got PTSD. I have flashbacks of things that happened, and you know, there was so much. So incorporating that in now, trying to change the education system, working with the different charities, trying to get training into businesses, working with the Department of Education to make it a statutory requirement for businesses and organizations to have at least one person who is trained in mentoring, counseling, everything mental health, which should hopefully cut the sick days and make employees feel more supported. And it shouldn't be something that is a massive hit cost-wise to businesses, because, you know, in this situation, everything's difficult at the moment.
Yeah.
And you look at the amount spent of the taxpayers' money with sick pay because of mental health. Actually, if we got these things put into place, we'd be saving billions a year.
Yeah. You're doing so many things, Joe. I don't know how you find time, to be honest, but it's a brilliant thing. If you had to, what is the one thing you think? They're all important, don't get me wrong, but what do you think is the biggest thing that we can try and change, or that will make a big difference?
It's the stigma. We need more awareness. I'd say education. Out of everything I'm doing at the moment and trying to implement, it's getting that education system changed. And it's from a very young age. So kids understand why people are different more, that it's good to be different, but things that can happen and that people are diagnosed with that make them seem a little bit different to them. It's not a child's fault for not understanding that and going, oh, that scares me, because it's a new world to them. But we need the education, the training amongst teachers as well, because it's very difficult to know how to deal with it, because it varies with everyone. No one is the same.
Yeah.
And what that does then is that tackles the issue of bullying, which then causes more detrimental effects on someone's mental health. And hopefully, as that goes on and time passes, we become a more inclusive and understanding environment, less judgmental, get rid of these stereotypes, and even just having a peer mentoring class, like religious education. I really don't see the fucking point in it.
Oh, no. I used to hate RE.
History lessons, you learn about that stuff, but I would, you know, if you're going to believe in a religion, normally that comes from a family background. That's your choice. But get rid of the lesson that has that done anything for me in life.
Yeah.
Not at all. Let's teach kids peer mentoring. Let's have a mentoring training and use those tools, you know, and even put in budgeting, like simple life skills, which you don't learn. You live on your own and you're like, oh, how do I do this? And this is the same. I now run a charity, which is for care leavers, children in care and care leavers. And that was because of what I'd seen. There needed to be a lot of change, a lot more support systems in place. And I ran children in care councils and care leavers councils. So, and I always said, you know, why don't we just run a social services in a charitable way, so we can get donations, resources, organisations all working together to give those people a better, successfully independent life, give them more opportunities. So that's happening. That needs to happen everywhere, not just with.
I think what you've said there is spot on, mate, because if we can educate, the education system in Britain is quite antiquated in some ways, and we need to move forward. And like you say, don't be scared to talk to kids about being different, young kids, mental health. It's a conversation we need to have with them. But a lot of parents don't, because you just don't think, and you're too busy with work and bringing up kids and making sure they're good to school. So the schools need to bring it in. And like you say, there's lessons like RE. I remember, what a load of shit. I'm not religious. How does that affect me? Yeah, if you're religious, great, you be religious. But, you know, you could have a lesson about these kind of things. It's like social media as well. They're starting to do a lot more of that in schools. But at what age? Teenagers. Well, what about younger kids than that? Because it's like you say, if they nip that in the bud there at a young age, the effect of doing that can be amazing. The other way is sort of what happened with you. The effect can be terrible. So you've spot on that. It's so important getting kids at that young age, isn't it?
That's how a child holistically develops. So over time, that does have an impact on how they live their life afterwards, and that's key. But the teachers, instead of 1 day training, like basic first aid training, is a few hours. Yeah, you know basic stuff, but let's be honest, does it really help? Not really. You've got a basic understanding. So the training needs to be better for teachers. And it's like when we started off for children in care counselling, care leavers, we developed a social workers academy. So although they had a degree in social work, they couldn't just go straight into the job. Then children, young people in the care system had to now, and they still do, it's now implemented to interview the social workers, see how they communicate with the young people. The young people actually deliver face-to-face training as well, so they can get a proper feel for what the system's like and how their behaviour impacts them. And this can be put into mental health as well. So we all need to work together. There's a lot that needs to be done, and what the lockdown's done is sent my head going absolutely mad. I need to do this, need to do this, need to do this, need to...
Yeah. We're running out of lockdown.
I just don't know how I'm going to fit it all in. And I want to start like a 999 service, but just purely for mental health. I've been looking into ways to do that, because the ambulance service, that's more physical illnesses, and they're having to deal with that. Police having to deal with that, but can't deal with that because they're overworked as well. So why can't we just have one service for mental health? Blue light, if someone's in a dire situation, get out to them, have trained mental health nurses, trained psychiatrists, psychologists that are there to respond straight away all around the country. Bridge that gap, stop using the different services, the police and the ambulance, them fighting between each other. Just have one service that actually works and communicates for the mental health system, instead of all these different third-party sectors like arguing over whatnot.
Yeah, you're right. It's a difficult time though for the emergency services, and that's not their fault. But like you say, you phone 999 and it's an emergency, and it's usually a physical one or a mental one that's led to a physical one. You'd save money if there's anything, if you can hit it while someone's unwell mentally before it turns physically. You can save money that way, can't you?
Exactly, and it saves time and resources, saves lives, and the time that the ambulance service could be going out to a cardiac arrest, what they call a category 1 call. That could save someone else's life, having a service that deals with that as well. That's a long time to set something like that up, but you never know who's going to come out. I was very lucky when I was 136 on another motorway. There was a police officer that actually, it was the only police officer that I related to that actually really helped. And throughout all of my journey in care, she followed up with me in her own time. Her sister was going through similar things, and she was the one, apart from my mum and dad and my family, but she was the one person who was consistent throughout all of my journey, and she'll still message and make sure I'm all right. Weekly meetings. She'd knock on my door when she was on shift and go, "How are you today? Sit down. Do you feel like you're going to overdose? Have you taken an overdose? Let me do this for you." And she was great. But a lot of police officers don't know what to do. That's not their... Their job is to keep people safe, but that's not the responsibility for the police force. And they get a lot of hate, a lot of anger and backlash from people because they are being failed by a very overworked system. We've got a minimum now 20-month waiting list, even for some primary care referrals for anyone struggling with mental health or possible mental illness going on. So it's the terminology we use that needs to change as well.
Yeah.
Everyone says they're depressed at the moment. Depression is a mental illness. You can be sad, but there's depressed. And this is what confuses and then causes this backlog in the system. And it's very easy to go get a sick note from your doctor, say, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
You're sad, but you're not depressed. You might need some support, if it goes on for a long time, then we can assess you for the clinical depression and put you on that right path. And mixed personality disorders can't be diagnosed until you're 18. So it's diagnosed as so many different things. Like my sheet of diagnosis is so confusing. But then when I was 18, I was diagnosed with that and put on a treatment plan. So why can't we diagnose kids at 16 instead when they are more developed, a bit more stable, but put them on the same kind of therapy plan and structure?
Yeah. Now, you said about working with a home office. That's pretty awesome. Tell us how that came about, Joe.
So that came about through the National Council of Voluntary Youth Services and through my work with Stand Up Speak Out. And it was part of a consultation. It wasn't just me, it was a lot of people. But it was, how can we help bridge the gap in the support and the communication for those on the autistic spectrum? And I mean, if you look at most people with autism, higher up the spectrum, it's colours they'll react to. Those who are non-verbal show a red card for stop, green card for good, whatever. And it was about putting some fun, colourful pictures on it to help explain. And it wasn't really in depth, or it's going to cause them a lot of anxiety, and because that's already a struggle dealing with the different emotions and the understanding the emotion. But it gave a very clear message about what was going on. And then that was rolled out. I've tried to find that online. I don't know if they've changed it now with other charities. I mean, this was, I think I was 14 when I did that.
Wow.
And that was amongst traveling to London like 3 times a week to go do some work and some events. Like, it was great. I had some great independence.
And
it was a good tool.
You talk about the celebrities, obviously through social media. You've managed to get hold of them. Which is the best one? Come on, who was the one that you really thought, wow, these? I would guess whether they've been through mental health themselves.
I could name drop and all the time. It's one of my favourite things to do. I love it.
You're right. I mean, James Arthur, hasn't he been through mental health issues?
He has. I mean, I met Prince Harry and Prince William at an event.
Wow.
And this is what makes this whole scenario quite interesting. But I mean, I don't class them as celebrities. I think they're just normal people who have been born into a life which, personally, monarchy, really don't care about. But,
you what? You're not a patriot. Get out.
That's going to anger a few people. They do good, don't get me wrong. They've done so much good work and they do inspire me. But there's just a lot of things that annoy me with that aspect. But James Arthur, he was very down to earth. He came off X Factor and he got a lot of abuse from people. And when he was dropped by Psycho, because of the way his background and because of the way he looked, and it's the same with Ed Sheeran. I've met Ed Sheeran. He was dropped by a label for being ginger. They told him he wouldn't sell any labels
pretty bad,
because he's ginger. So they must.
Yeah, they're pissed off now.
Universal must look and be like, oh shit.
Imagine.
You know, it was we did a Stop Media Abuse campaign with James Arthur on Twitter. I talked to his family on the occasions as well. His mum and his sister I'm good friends with. It's a bit hard to get hold of him now.
Yeah.
And they helped me through my journey as well. And it was weird because I had people like Sunita and them like helping me in my dark times. And you couldn't see them. But it was nice because, again, it was a bit like, oh, I've got these people sticking up for me. When I was in hospital, a phone call from Sunita going, is Joe all right? And them going, what?
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
Then Dappy as well sent me some Adidas stuff just to like keep me warm while I was in a hospital bed. Like, that was great.
Yeah, but, and that's great. That's great to show that these public figures are not just talking the talk; they're walking the walk. They are there. They are supportive, and I think that's a massive thing.
They're people as well. You know, celebrity life isn't easy, and although I haven't been on the same level as these people, I've experienced a similar situation where, you know, being followed around by the press, having all of this stuff going into this spotlight, it was so difficult. And I just felt like I was drowning. But these people they're human too. But James Arthur is the one that sticks out for me of making a difference. And his song Recovery that he wrote as well was about his journey and about the struggles that he felt. He was an inspiration, to message. I can still message him now. Yes, it might take a little while for a reply, but
that's
really
good.
helped me build that up. And the same with Sunita.
That's good.
I'm very lucky, but it's when they use their platforms, their profiles and their experiences, and they're open and honest. It makes a huge difference because so many look up to these people.
Yeah, people will listen. Yeah.
Use your platform to do good. My social media platform's grown massively. I mean, my Facebook page, the blue ticks, I don't know why everyone gets so...
Well, you got a blue tick. Woohoo!
Oh, don't.
I want a blue tick.
I've had like 6 messages this week going, "Oh, you blue tick wanker." Like loads of...
You blue tick wanker.
Blue tick wanker is my nickname now.
I love that. I love that. I've not heard that. That's funny, man. You're just jealous.
Honestly, I started conversations about the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle situation. Robin Williams didn't look suicidal when you'd speak to him.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic human being. His messages, he inspired. It was so sad. Meghan Markle, I read a transcript. I've obviously saw the clips that the media were putting on, but I didn't want to watch it. I'd rather read a transcript because I'm not going to, I don't really give a shit. Fair play. If there is stuff going on if they're being racially discriminated, if they're being bullied, you should talk about that because that needs to be dealt with. We are in a modern day and age where we need to stamp out racism. We need to promote inclusive. I don't even know the word. That was what I was going to say, but that's going to be a word now. Yeah. But she doesn't have to look suicidal. You don't just look suicidal. She's talking about it.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem for me. Is regardless of everything else, the rules and all that shit, I don't care about that. But Piers Morgan said he didn't believe her. But we should never say that. If someone says they felt suicidal, regardless, what we don't want people like that to do is think, I can't say anything because they'll say they don't believe me. That is terrible. So whether she was true, whatever, you cannot call people out like that because it's so important. People talk, how important.
And that's a big person in the media. That's a big program in the UK, and that caused so much stir. I mean, I've had to try and moderate my social media. Now AI and all this technology bullshit's trying to take over. They don't have people now to do it. Whereas before it was moderated a lot better. As a public figure, as social media wants to call me, call me whatever. I've had many different names.
Blue tick wanker.
I tried to go down the music industry route, and there's some embarrassing things on Spotify if you type in Joe Plumb and want to laugh, like listen to some music. No, I have a duty to obviously moderate what's on there because it is but there's only to a certain point. But I feel it was important for me to put out. I don't really care about the situation.
Yeah,
that's a sensitive family issue, which we've all had, which should be done in private. But the one thing you do is just believe them and just listen. It's so simple. People might lie about feeling suicidal. It might be attention. That's not right. I'm not saying it is, but 99% of the time, if that is the case, there is something going on underneath everything, which they want to communicate, but they can't. So it needs to be looked at the bigger picture. And my reach in a day, I had 3.2 million people engaging and looking at my Facebook page.
Yeah.
On Monday after posting. I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Something's happened.
I'm leaving it this weekend. I just need a break. It's made my head go mad.
I don't blame you. But look, let's talk a little bit about people out there struggling. If people are out there struggling now, what I've noticed in this last lockdown, we had a little bit of taste of freedom. few months ago, you know, before Christmas. It's like, oh, we're back to the gym, pubs are opening. Then it was taken away. And I've noticed people that never say they struggle have actually turned to me and said, oh, everybody's struggling, whether it's really badly or, you know, there's different levels, of course, but everybody is. What do you think, Joe, is the key advice you could give to people?
Like you said, everyone's struggling at the moment, and I think that's the uncertainty, and people have lost hope because these lockdowns, you know, this is our third one, and we keep going back and forth, and no one really knows what to expect anymore. Take every day as it comes. It's easy to look at June 21st, the date that they've given us for freedom, and go, yeah, that's great, but don't think about that. We need to take everything day by day. We will be back to some sense of normality at some point, but it could take a long time. This is like winter flu. COVID's been around for years. It's mutated. You know, we've now got a vaccine which has the same effects as a flu vaccine if you have any side effects, but it's good for you. I've had mine, felt fine. Small baby steps. Take every day as it comes. If you are struggling, you can reach out. Don't feel like, you know, you can't, because you're going to be causing, you know, distress to someone else's day or bothering them. If you need that support, you can reach out. There are organizations out there as well. If you don't want to talk, like Shout, just sending a quick message. And they're not people that can give you professional help. That's like having a friend at the end of the phone that you just text in, and you can go, I feel like shit. I feel like this. You're safeguarded as well, which is good, because if you do feel at a point where you're risky, you know that someone is looking after you. And just love yourself. You know, in all of this, it's hard to, it's so easy looking at social media and Instagram, and so many people are using these platforms now. But behind a photo, there's these filters that people are putting up. Oh, look at my great life. Look at my day-to-day of what I'm doing in lockdown. Or people are living at home with their families, getting a hug, but people are on their own.
Yeah.
Stop comparing yourself to those other lifestyles, and actually just love yourself, love who you are, love where you're at, be proud of where you're at and that you're still here and that you've come this far already. This has been such a tough time for everyone. And the fact you are still here is credit to you, and that shows your strength. And you can get through this. We can all get through this. We are in this together, and shit gets tough. that is life.
Yeah.
But
as they say,
the more shit we get through, the easier it gets. So we've just got to hold on to hope as well. Hope that it gets better, but don't look too far ahead, because that's when we start to lose that hope.
Yeah, I think a big thing that I've took away from talking to yourself and other people and Victorian is not to beat yourself up. We're going through a pandemic, and it's easy to think, oh, I haven't done anything today, or I drank too much last night. It's easy to beat yourself up. We're going through a pandemic. There's never been anything like this, you know, so when we
enjoy it. We get time at home when we don't have to go
party.
Out. Like
me and Baby Yoda, we're partying.
Just recognise that in the love it.
Me and Baby Yoda, but just enjoy it. Oh, it's just difficult, and them time. What I would say is we all have them times where everybody's has different days. I'll wake up some days and feel terrible. Try and get a bit of a routine, but if you feel bad and there's someone with you, just have a chat. Just talk to them. You don't have to give out your soul and say, oh, I feel it, but just have a chat. Say, oh, I feel a bit down today. You know, should we do something, go for a walk? Or just talk. And if there's no one there, use the phone, use Zoom or something. But the worst you could do is just sit there and let it go around in your head. You know.
And remember, you can go for a walk now. You can meet up with a friend outside. And on the 28th of March, we can meet up with 6 people outside.
For a picnic.
Woo! Fantastic. And the outdoors is so good for you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, utilize that. And, you know, my inbox are always open because I'm advanced safeguarding trained. I'm a designated safeguarding officer for my charity. And with the work I do, that's very tough. And like I said, 5 times this week been on the phone to different police forces all around the UK, trying to track people down who are struggling. But if you just want an informal chat, and if you feel like there's no one there, I do have an auto reply that will piss people off, and I don't know how to turn it off. But I guess the good thing for that is it does take me a bit longer sometimes to reply, but I can relate to what a lot of people, we've spoken about it, but if it's just reaching out, saying you feel shit, having a rant, there are people you can turn to out there, and my social media is pretty easy to get a hold of, and everything runs through my website as well. So every message goes through to the same place, so I don't miss anything.
Good stuff. Right, where's the future for you then, Joe? Because I would guess there's a lot of different things. Where are we going?
There's quite a few big things that I've got involved in through the lockdown, things launching. So I don't really know, to be honest. And I try not to think too far, because I like where I am now. But I don't get paid for anything I do. I've never been paid a penny. This all comes out of my own pocket and working a full-time job for my dad. So,
well, that's wrong. You should get paid for this and do it full-time.
I think it's something that actually I really care about, and it's not about finances.
Oh, I know.
But I've now got what's been apparent is I now need to stop getting into that thought process where it's bad to ask for payment and for, and you haven't got to
be a millionaire, but if you're getting paid, that means you haven't got to worry about having a job, which means you can focus more on the things you are doing, and that's
exactly
what it does.
So I'm going to try and I'm going to start probably a nice social enterprise or a non-profit organisation, like the charity I've got at the moment. That's just starting up. Got the charity number when the first lockdown happened, which wasn't helpful, but we've moved forward so much. And with the talks with Department of Work and Pensions, Department of Education, try and implement these things, get government funding, lottery funding, and just really make a difference. And my goal is in the future, like that 999 idea, I really want to put that in place. I want to get trained mental health professionals and people who haven't got a degree in this, that could be on the end of the phone, that could do peer mentoring, start a national peer mentoring program off or something on Zoom, get those policies and procedures put in place, which are boring as fuck and long-winded.
I know, it's
but by law you've got to have them.
The people that wrote those fucking policies have never had a fucking bad day in their life. No, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, they are. And I think the key, what you said there, these mentors, people shouldn't be afraid. If you've got life experience in mental health or something like that, you shouldn't think, oh, I've got to go to college, I've got to go uni, I've got to get a degree. No, you've got life experience. So yes, you'll need a bit of training, but they shouldn't be afraid to think, I can help other people. You know what I mean?
And that's where the education system fails. Look at there are lots of people I know that have gone to uni and go, oh, look at me, I've got first class honours in this. But still living at home with my parents, haven't got a job, and I'm, any job is good, but they almost look down at you because you haven't got that degree. This is where the education system's fucked, because it only works for specific people. It doesn't accompany everyone's different ways of learning. It was like in maths, when you used to do a calculation, there were so many different ways to work it out. You get the right answer, but that it wasn't right because you didn't work it out the way the teacher wanted to. Does it matter? I still got the right answer.
And how does that help you in real life? Do I go to the shop and they'll say, what's the square root of pi for those 6 eggs?
My gob.
Now, Joe, if there was one bit of advice you've been given or you could give to someone out there, what do you think it could be?
One bit of advice for myself. Let's stop thinking too much about the future, but it's also learn more about yourself and don't be afraid to do that. It's important that we analyze ourselves and not hate ourselves for it, but we can learn from that. Yeah. And I mean, I've got "Don't Suffer in Silence" written on not written on, tattooed on my wrist. That was the first thing in the psych unit that I saw, that it would just prompt me. It was really weird. I'd see it and I'd be like, I need to go talk to someone.
Love that.
And just being open, honest, and communicating, not beating around the bush. That's so important. And talk about things online. The online world now, it's different. We live in a completely different world where the majority of us communicate on social media. Use that. If you feel alone, use social media. Put out a tweet going, I'm not feeling okay today, or a Facebook message. Let people know. Fuck what anyone else thinks. You're not an attention seeker. If you need that support, and if you feel there's no way to get it, and you just start, do it, because you're letting people know. And by doing that, you will have a positive reaction back. Some people might judge because we've got arseholes in society. That's correct. That's reality.
There's not many. There's not many. Let's be honest. There's not many. It only takes one, but let them have their bit of whatever they need. What you need to think is all those hundreds of messages of support. That's the key.
Look after yourself. Self-care isn't a selfish thing. Putting yourself first is something you need to do. Self-love, self-care, and putting yourself first. You need to do that to look after yourself before you can look after anyone.
Yeah.
And people may say that's selfish, going to take a couple of hours out to have a bath, to put a face mask on, to listen to some music, to have a dance, whatever you may do, whatever makes you happy, do it.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone tell you that it's selfish or it's a necessity, because it's not. It's absolutely necessary. And weekends, if you don't work on the weekends, are a great time to do it. Just whenever you have free time.
Okay, and I always ask my guests for a favourite, Joe, so it can be a film, a book, or music, or anything like that, but just something that's accessible to all. Have you got a favourite?
A favourite film?
Yeah, film or book.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that a few times. Yeah, good. That went under the radar a little bit. It was big when it first came out, Will Smith, but then it's
I think it's because happiness is spelt with a Y, but there's the reason for that. Yeah. It took me ages to find it again. Then I realised, I was like, oh.
Yeah. I haven't watched that for a while, actually. I must watch that, but that's a great shout out.
Will Smith can just play anyone, can't he?
I know. It makes me sick.
I want to look like Zac Efron. That's something I've realised as well throughout lockdown.
Well, you do a little bit. You do a little bit, Joe.
Well, I thought either Dwayne Johnson, but he's got too much muscle. I think something that I could probably aspire to is that summer body of Zac Efron.
I did a podcast the other week with a guy that has trained with The Rock. He's an actor, and he was saying he's all work. He's got no personality. He's boring. You don't want it. We could all have a body like that, but that don't make us a nice person.
That's why it works with Kevin Hart so much, isn't it? Just to boost him up.
The total opposite. Now, if people want to get in touch, your social media, where can they find you, Joe? I'll put links in the description. Anyway.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So you can go onto my website at joeplumb.org. That's all one word, J-O-E, and plum is like the fruit, but with a B on the end. All social media is found on there, but if you want to find me on Twitter and Instagram, it's just at Joe Plumb UK, and facebook.com/Joe Plumb UK. And you'll know it's me because you'll see the blue tick for the blue tick wanker.
Hey, you love that, don't you? Blue tick. Go off. Well, look, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You're such an inspiration, mate, and just keep cracking on with what you're doing because you're making such a difference to people's lives. It is so important. You're so inspirational. So keep it up. And hopefully when lockdown's finished, we'll have to meet up for a coffee and
definitely
talk to you face to face.
Have a coffee, go out, have some shots, whatever it may be.
Don't tell the wife might be listening. Oh no, yeah, definitely. Right, lovely to speak to you, Joe. You look
Thank you so much,
and I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
So that's it. Massive thanks again to Joe for joining me today, and also you for listening or watching. Make sure you follow the podcast, because coming up over the next few months, there are some more extraordinary interviews. The podcast will be streaming on the usual platforms, including iTunes and Spotify. So please leave a rating on there and subscribe. And to keep up to date on social media, Facebook is My Way of Thinking Podcast, Instagram's My What Podcast, and Twitter is My Way of Thinking with a 3 on the end instead of a G. And also I'll put the whole conversation on YouTube every week, which is My Way of Thinking Podcast. And finally, if you do want to get in touch with you think you may be a great guest, or you know someone who will be a great guest, then email me. It's mywhatpodcast@aol.com. Thanks ever so much for listening in today. It means a lot. God bless. Have a great Easter. Take care.